everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Tonight we are going to cook up our sourdough discard tortillas that we made, and then we're going to do some chicken fajitas, air fried street corn, and we're going to prep some sourdough loaves and then some pizza crust that I'm going to make for some homemade pizzas that I'm going to freeze down. Okay, so let's get our chicken sliced and marinated. We're going to kind of do like a beer chili marinade, but I'm first going to just cut off some of these fatty pieces off of my chicken breasts. So whenever you see the white chunks on your chicken breast, those are just fat. So you can cut them off because they'll just be chewy. And then I'm going to cut each one in half thin-wise. And we're going to do some just nice strips because these are going to be for fajitas. So we want nice thin strips. There we go. And I'm going to just start putting them in the bowl right here. So you could also, if you could cube it if you want to have more easier bites, but fajitas are typically like thinner strips of meat. But really any way that's more comfortable for you guys to eat it. And then here's a good piece of fat. You always want to make sure you cut that off. I find that there's typically, it's surprising, a lot of bits of fat on some chicken breasts nowadays. And we're going to cut it in half to thin it out.
Do you have a question? Do you boil the chicken first?
No, we are going to just marinate it, and then we're going to cook it at high heat and kind of trap in the nice flavors that way. So we're going to saute it in a pan, kind of like when you go to a Mexican restaurant and they serve you those fajitas on like a smoking hot skillet. We're going to cook ours high heat, and that's going to keep them nice and moist and but delicious and give them a nice little crisp up. Okay, let's get this. Get these strips out. Perfect. And then I got one last one. And I'm going to flip over. Looks pretty good. Then we're just going to cut it in half because otherwise your strips will be really thick. So I always, kind of cut it right down just to thin them out a little bit. Yeah, you could also use boneless, skinless chicken thighs. That would also be really good because chicken thighs are dark meats. So they would be a bit more tender and a bit more moist when you saute them up. Okay. And done. Let me discard my chicken waste. And this is going to go in the sink, and I'm going to give my hands a quick wash real quick. Okay. So we are going to make a lovely marinade for our chicken, for our fajitas. We are going to use a little bit of beer. Any beer that you have will work. And you don't need too much because we don't want to drench it, but about maybe 1/4 of a cup. But it will help marinate the chicken, make it nice and tender and juicy. And then you can save the rest of the beer to have later. I'm not a beer fan, so I'll give it to my husband.
Wait, are we done with it?
Yes, that is definitely for you. Okay. And we're going to put a little bit of liquid smoke. This is going to give it a nice kind of smoky flavor that kind of will mimic a grill. I love this stuff. You can buy it in like the condiment aisle, but I use it on my like pulled pork and whatnot. So we put about a teaspoon of that in there. And we're going to do a little drizzle of olive oil. And then we're going to use some chipotle chili pepper.
So you have a question. What type of knife are you using?
I had just used, that was a big chef knife for my chicken. And now I'm actually going to be using a smaller Santoku knife. At least I think it's called Santoku. I made fun of the name of this knife for so long because it always reminded me of Sudoku. And but it has if you can see it, there's these little ridges that are supposed to make chopping easier. But I switched it up because I have used that one for raw meat. We're going to use a little bit of paprika. about a half a teaspoon. And then we're going to use some, this is just a chipotle seasoning mix. Mrs. Dash's, love her. And we're going to put it in here about a teaspoon. And then let's not forget some garlic salt. And you'll want about a teaspoon, so it's going to be a couple of good shakes. And we are going to use a little bit of lime juice. So you're going to have the beer and the fresh lime juice. I'm really going to try to get all of that out. You don't need too much lime juice. Perfect. And this is going to make just a lovely, what I say, a quick marinade. And a quick marinade is something that you could marinate this overnight or for a couple hours, but it's also will seal in the flavors in just a few minutes. So we're going to toss our chicken in it until it's all really coated. But you see, it's not a super soupy one. It's really going to stick and cling to the chicken, which is what we want, because we don't want to have a super wet marinade or it's going to sweat up too much when we cook it. Okay, we're going to let this sit in its little juices for a few seconds while we prep our onions and our peppers. And we'll also do our street corn. So before we do all of that, I meant to do the rice first, but we'll do that right here. So we're going to make our quick cilantro rice because we got to have it with our fajitas. Nothing bougie about this, just a good old pack. I do at the very end, we'll add some fresh cilantro and a little bit of garlic, salt, and lime juice just to make it a little bit more better. It's a way to make it a bit more bougie than it is. So you put 2 cups in. I'm just following the instructions on how to cook it. It's 2 cups of water. We'll put our pack in, a little drizzle of olive oil, and then we'll let it come to a boil and then simmer. But easy peasy. Those are just following instructions. A little drizzle. And let's grab my spatula. Little stir. And then once it comes to a boil, I'll put the lid on and bring it down, bring its heat down to a low to simmer. Okay, now we have that. We're going to cut up our onion because we're going to saute some onions and peppers, and then we'll have our chicken, and then we're going to make some street corn as well. So we have 1 yellow onion. Yellow onions are great for sauteing. They really caramelize up nicely. So I'm going to just take off this whole outer layer. I'm going to take off the second one too. Sometimes you get a little chewy one, so you want to get it all the way to where it's nice because those won't cook up well. If they're a little bit brown and, a little dry, just cut it off and go to the next layer of the onion. And since we're doing kind of fajitas, we're going to just do nice, long, thin strips. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing with our other one. Nice and long, thin strips, so that'll go with our long, thin strips of meat as well. And we can start to saute these up. Get our skillet going. We're using our Hexclad. It's a non-stick. And while those start going, I'm going to roll out a couple of tortillas. Now, these were our sourdough discard tortillas we made at lunchtime today. And we have just let our dough sit and rise. Let me grab, where is it? There's my parchment paper. And we're going to grab 2 sheets of parchment paper. And that way you can kind of roll it out between it. Sometimes it doesn't stick and sometimes it does, so I always have my parchment paper there just in case. I'm going to turn my skillet on to about a 6. We're going to let it warm up. No butter on the skillet, nothing. When we made our dough for our tortillas, we had some oil in it. We added a half a cup of oil in it, so that should make it really nice. Now, this is where if you had a tortilla press, it would probably work out much better than rolling it out, because I will tell you, I can never roll a circle out. I don't know how those bakers who can roll a perfect pie circle out, but all you have to do is you're gonna just roll it to about paper thin, not too thick. And then we're just gonna put it on our skillet, and it's gonna cook up, and then we'll cook it on one side and then we'll flip it over to the other. So easy peasy. These are gonna be for our tortillas. So I'm gonna roll out a few and then we're gonna go over there and prep. So we'll just kind of be tag teaming. So see, they say if you do like delicately around and around, but I am not a delicate person. I'm a person who just goes. I'm a rusher. There. So we're gonna roll this out nice and thin. And the beauty of it is it's okay if it's a little oblong. They will cook up nicely and you won't tell the difference when you're eating it with your meat inside. Grab a plate to put these on. When they're done, and we're just gonna go nice and slow. Our oil over here should be warmed up now, so we can toss our onions in to start caramelizing. You hear that nice sizzle too. And grab myself another set of tongs. Then I'm gonna toss in the oil to kind of coat them up. And we're gonna have them caramelize first and start to cook up first. Then we're gonna add in our peppers. But I always start with my onions, let them have a few minutes by themselves so that they can get caramelized, the natural sugars in them come out. And then we're gonna cook up some sweet peppers. There we go. You don't need too many because not everyone's a pepper lover, but I always gotta have peppers with fajitas. And we're just gonna do nice, long, thin strips because it's gonna go with our onions and our fajitas, and they're just gonna lay in our strip in our taco or our fajita. We're gonna cut it down. Now you could use bell peppers if you wanted, but I find sweet peppers, or at least the red and the yellow and the orange bell peppers, are much nicer. They're sweeter. They're not as bitter tasting. So I will say I rarely use green peppers. And if you want to elevate the spice, you could throw in, a poblano, habanero, jalapeno. You could cut up a couple of these if you wanted. But again, I'm a bit of a spice wuss, so I will not be doing that. And let's see how this is heating up. So essentially you're gonna cook it until it has these little brown spots. Like when you look at a tortilla, you see those little brown spots. That's when you know it's gonna be ready to flip to the other side. Turn this down, give it a nice toss. In here. And then let's cut up. We've got a couple more peppers. And again, these are just sweet peppers, nothing spicy. So we're big. I'm like the biggest spice wimp. I can't handle anything. Although I will say I'm one of those people that sriracha is not spicy for me. I don't think it's spicy at all, where some people get the kick of sriracha and never felt spicy to me. But cayenne pepper, black pepper, all of that is spicy. Okay, we've got our onions here. Let's give them one more toss. And now that we've got some of them nice and starting to brown up, we're going to pop in a couple of these peppers. And we're going to let them saute up as well. And then what we'll do is we'll transfer them to a bowl, and then we'll cook up our meat, because if you try to put the meat in here with all of this, what will happen is all the juices will flood out, and we want to cook it on a nice high heat to try to get a good sear off of them. Okay. I'm going to turn it up just a pinch. Where did my spoon go? Disappeared. There it is. Give this a nice stir. I can see a little boil on our corn, but not quite. You need a nice rolling boil for our rice. I'm in my head, I'm thinking I need to start the corn. So we're gonna do a quick, I'm gonna pop these corn in the oven on the air fryer setting at 425. And they're just gonna cook up for about 10-15 minutes. And then we're gonna make this delicious kind of sweet corn like sauce that will spread over them. And then we'll drizzle them with a little lime juice, chili powder, and a little bit of Parmesan cheese because I don't have the traditional Mexican cheese, the cojita. Okay. I know I was at the grocery store and I saw corn and makes me think of summer, and I love corn on the cob. I grew up in Iowa, so you can imagine I ate a lot of corn on the cob there, and nothing truly beats the corn on the cob there, but doesn't matter here. It may not be as good, but it's still delicious. I'll never really eat corn on frozen corn, but corn on the cob, it's just so good. And my kids love it too. They don't really care for, like, if I were to buy corn that wasn't corn on the cob, they wouldn't necessarily eat it. There we go. Now we're starting to get a nice little browning. Takes a few minutes for your skillet to warm up, but once it's warm, then they'll all cook a lot faster after that.
Question, where in Iowa?
Where I grew up in Ames, Iowa. So my parents worked at the university there. And I lived in Iowa till I was 10. And then I moved back for undergrad. I went to Iowa State for undergrad. But fond memories. And I met my husband in Iowa, so, you know, it's not all bad there. Okay, we got our corn. And got to get all this corn silk. That's the one bad thing about corn is the corn silk. Although if you have guinea pigs apparently love corn silk. When I was teaching, I thought it was a brilliant idea to get guinea pigs. Don't do it. And those things live forever. But the kids always did love to bring in food and treats to feed them. And so there's my lid. My rice is boiling nicely, so I'm gonna turn it down to low. And whenever they would bring in their leftover, like they had corn on the cob, they'd bring in their corn shucks and their things, and they loved it. Okay. Let me put my corn on the tray, and then I'm going to go pop this over in my oven. I have it set on the air fryer at 425. If you don't have an air fryer setting on your oven, you could do a convection bake at 425, but I'll be taking me 2 seconds. I'm going to just pop it in. Nothing really. Perfect. And that's going to cook it up. You could also do it on the grill, or you could boil it. Boil it, it's not going to give you that kind of crunch that you want, but air fryer is a good second. Okay, look at that. We're already starting to get nice little bubbles. See, they cook so much faster once they start to get going. Let's get our next one kind of rolling out. And these, we made them at lunch. It's super simple, this recipe. It's a great way to use discard. It was 1 cup of discard, and then we used 3 1/3 cup of flour, 1/2 cup of oil, and 2/3 cup of water, and 2 teaspoons of salt. So they're really simple recipe, but absolutely delicious. And look, you've got a nice little bubble on it, which is perfect. That will deflate. That's when you can see you get those nice little spots on it that you're used to seeing on a tortilla. When you bubble up, that's when you know it's done.
You have a question? How much discard?
1 cup of discard. I'm going to make a recipe card and have that posted, but I think our video from lunch is it up? So our video from lunch we do have posted, so you can always reference in there. Okay, get that going. Let's roll out another one so that we can go there. And then we're going to work on making our street corn dip. And then we might start on our sourdoughs. That's one thing that's nice about Mexican food. Mexican's a pretty fast-paced food when you're making it, like when you do on the stove and stuff like that. It's a good meal that you can whip out and really fast, but still have really good fresh flavors. Okay. Perfect. See if we are ready to flip this guy. Perfect. I'm going to start turning it down just a little because it gets nice and hot. Okay, we're going to make our little elotes or street corn dip for it. Just bought a new sour cream today. So we're going to put in, I'm not making a huge amount because we only have a few pieces of corn, but about I want to say a third cup of sour cream, and you'll do a third cup mayo. So you're going to do half and half of that. Let me grab a spoon here. And I just do visual because it's a pain to try to scoop this into a measuring cup. So just make sure you have kind of equal parts there. And then we are going to add a little bit of lime juice. And so I've got a half a lime here. I'm just going to squeeze it in there. Perfect. And a little bit of chili powder. This is chipotle, but you could also use just regular chili powder or adobe chili powder. You're going to put maybe a fourth of a teaspoon. And then we're going to use some paprika. And again, about a fourth of a teaspoon. We're going to sprinkle some more over our corn, but that's just to give it nice little flavors. Then we're going to use some garlic salt and about a half a teaspoon. And then you're just going to mix it up. And then what we're going to do is this is what you're going to coat your corn with when it comes out. Then you're going to sprinkle some chili powder over it and some Parmesan cheese, or if you had the Mexican fresh cheese, you'd use that. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Let's roll out our next one. Perfect. And the trick with these is you don't have to get them paper thin, but you want them to be kind of the same consistency, like thickness all the way out. And I just find like a good firm push with your rolling pin works just perfect. And I will say it's a really elastic dough, so it does spread fairly easy. I'll have that one ready. And our peppers are almost done here, which we'll transfer off. Perfect. You want to get that nice little sizzled on it. That's what when you're cooking it on high, it mimics that kind of what is it, like a black top or one of those burner things where you get that nice little sizzle char on it. Perfect. And then we're going to cook our chicken at really high heat too. But I'm going to do that in just a second because I don't want it to get cold. I want everything to try to be timed at about the right time. There we go. So we've got our peppers done. Let's finish mixing our kind of elote for our street corn. Perfect. So then what we'll do is you'll kind of smear it on your corn. You sprinkle some Parmesan cheese over it. You sprinkle a little chili powder over, and then you put a little bit of cilantro on it. Okay, let's clear up this area. Let's flip our tortilla. I'm going to turn it down even more. We got a little darker, but that's okay. That doesn't do much to anything. And I'm trying to think. Oh, my daughter wanted refried beans. Only like three people in our house like it, but she loves refried beans. And I said we could have them. So we grabbed a can of it. All I do with refried beans, since it's not something that everybody loves in our house, a little bit of butter, put them in there, let them saute up, and then you put just a little bit of melted cheese on it, and you let it melt up, and they're good. Perfect. Okay. Now I've got my skillet down to a 2. So every now and then just keep turning it down because again, this thing is nice and hot. Once it's heated up, it cooks a lot faster than the first one. So that's why I'm always like, just keep turning it down and do it nice and slow. We'll roll this guy out. Perfect. You can see the nice thing about these like tortillas is they're so malleable and they're really soft, which are just delicious. Once you go to making your own tortillas, it's really hard to go back to like store-bought tortillas because they're really not hard to make. It's fairly easy. Okay, we've got our refried beans here. Put a little bit of butter. I have a smidge left over here in this. And not much. You don't need much for the can. I'm going to turn my back one on to about a medium. And then we're going to scoop this out into there. And we'll just, there we go. A little bit of bean juice. Say, I was never a person who liked refried beans, but the people who love them, they love them. My daughter loves them. I think it was when she was little, their school served refried beans. And like every week they had refried beans and she just absolutely loved them. Okay, get that bean juice out. Let's check our tortilla here. Beautiful. I'm going to put our next one on. And then we're going to start sauteing up our chicken. And we got to make our guac. And we got to prep our bread. And then soon our corn, which we have cooking in our oven on the air fryer setting, is ready. And we'll be able to give it that nice kind of a elote street corn seasoning to it. There we go. So this will be ready. Now I'm going to turn my grill or my stove on. We're going to make this nice and hot. We're going to put a good amount of oil in here because you want it to sizzle right away. So we're going to let it get hot because you don't want to put it in when it's cold. Nice hot one to give a nice sear on it. And then let's get ready to make our guacamole because you can't have a fajita without guacamole. We're going to cut open our avocados. And then I like to do, it's more of an avocado smash than a traditional guacamole that has like onions and peppers and tomatoes in it. But it's what my kids love. And it is delicious. Okay. So we're just going to we're going to pop our avocados into the bowl. And then we'll mash them with a fork. And we'll add some fresh lime juice and some garlic salt. We've got our first bit. Let's flip our tortilla. Perfect. And in just a second, our meat will be nice, our oil will be nice and hot for our fajitas. So right now we are making our refried beans. We're cooking up our homemade tortillas that we made with this sourdough discard this morning. We have our chicken marinating in some beer, chipotle seasonings, a little bit of liquid smoke, and we're going to saute it up in some hot oil that we can serve with our onions and our peppers, making a little bit of a guacamole, and we have some cilantro rice cooking up. And also we have in the oven, we have our corn in the air fryer cooking so that we can make some street corn with it. Okay. We've got those. Now we've got our skillet nice and hot. Look at this. As soon as you put it down, perfect. Now the trick is you don't want to overcrowd it too much. So make sure you're just putting your meat in and spreading it out. There we go. And we're gonna let it cook on high heat on one side and for a few seconds to crisp up, and then we'll start tossing it. So we wanna just start on one side. Okay, let's get our next tortilla out. Perfect. And I'm gonna prep it for each one. And just wanna roll it out nice and thin. And these are gonna be for our tortillas. Now, if you have a tortilla press, that will make it go even faster. Let's spread our refried beans around. And then I'm just gonna take a peek on our corn, see how much longer it needs. Good, we still need about 2 more minutes or 3 more minutes on it. Let's make our guacamole. So we're gonna use some fresh lime juice. Gotta use fresh lime juice. We're gonna squeeze 1 whole lime over our 4 avocados. There we go. There's, and squeeze. And if I will say, sometimes you get a lime that isn't super juicy, so you might need 2. This one was a perfect lime. It has lots of juice in it. There we go. Get my tortilla one. Turn it up. Okay, now that these are kind of sizzling, I'm gonna give them a nice toss. So I'm flipping them over because you see how we have this beautiful, nice brown kind of sauteed crust on them? That's what you want. You want high heat without a lot of movement. So we're gonna let it sit, crisp up there. We grab a fork to mash our avocados into our guacamole. Garlic salt. I make a really simple guacamole. Fresh lime juice and garlic, salt, and avocados. That's all you need. And you want about a teaspoon of garlic salt to your things because avocados don't have a lot of flavor and the garlic salt really helps bring it out. Now I'm just kind of mashing it with my fork into the lime juice. And perfect. And you're just going to go around and around.
You have a question? Did you go to culinary school?
I did not go to culinary school. I have just been cooking for a very long time and I really enjoy it. I actually started cooking when I was 13 years old. I started taking over it was one of our chores that you could do. As if you cooked dinner and you cleaned up, paid the best, and you got to pick what was for dinner. And I loved it. And so I have just been cooking since then. And I also grew up in a really big family. So we were cooking big meals. I have 9 older siblings, so pretty big family. But I just was really into it. I watched all the cooking shows when I was a kid. My parents got me the cooking magazines, gourmet, fine cooking. And they really fostered my passion. They would take me to Williams and Sonoma to pick out new cooking series. And I've never not loved cooking. And I really enjoy it. And that's kind of what started my journey here was I just wanted to share cooking and teach people that they can make great, delicious meals at home without fancy equipment, without fancy ingredients, or being classically trained. And you can do it there. And it's not that hard. It just takes a little bit of practice. And just knowing that you're going to make mistakes along the way. I make plenty of mistakes now, and but it doesn't stop me. Every mistake you learn from. Okay, give this a nice little toss. Perfect. And this, for those of you who joined us late, we made a lovely marinade with some beer, chipotle seasonings, garlic, salt, lime juice, and paprika to season it up. We've got our guac just about made here.
You have a question? Who's your favorite chef growing up?
My favorite was definitely Gordon Ramsay. I loved Hell's Kitchen. When I was in college, my brother took me to one of his restaurants in New York, and I was really excited to go there and try all of his food. And also the fact that my family were big soccer people. Both my daughters play soccer and we love the sport. And that he was actually a professional soccer player first who got injured, and it kind of ruined his plan, and he picked up cooking. So it's always one of those things where he got injured. His path that he always thought was going to be his path didn't turn out, but he still made an amazing career, probably a better career than if he'd been a soccer player. Okay. And he's funny. Although I would never want to be on his show.
You got a comment that someone made your fried chicken recipe and had their neighbors over.
Oh, great. I hope it turned out great. I hope you liked it.
Yeah, she said it was delicious.
Oh, good. I feel like fried chicken is one of those things that a lot of people are scared to make because you can easily burn it, or you can easily make it to where it's raw. But the trick of parboiling really makes you a lot more successful, and it makes it super tender and juicy and delicious.
You have a question? Did you ever watch Emerald?
I did watch Emerald. He wasn't my favorite, but I did watch him. I feel like I like the drama of Hell's Kitchen a lot, and same with MasterChef. And I really like those. And I was never into really any of the baking shows so much, but I will say, when I was a younger, this is, I was raised very different. My husband always thinks it's really, we had one TV in our house. My parents never watched TV. So as a whole in our family, we never really watched TV. So I apparently missed out on like so many monumental things. My husband says, he's like, we're only 2 years apart, yet you never watched Full House or whatnot. And I was like, no, never did that. And so I didn't really start to watch cooking shows until like end of high school or in college. And I think I like the competition ones really well. They always had a couple. I watched Rachel Ray a little bit. She kind of got really big when I was, late teenager. And I liked hers because I thought she was fun and real, I feel like. Okay. We'll roll this out, and I think our corn is just about ready. And perfect. I'm going to grab a trivet. Okay, so we have it in the air fryer, and this is the beauty of the air fryer is you see how you can get nice little crisping up like you're on a grill, but without it being on the grill. So what you're doing here to make these delicious kind of street tacos is this is that little mix we made with sour cream, mayo, lime juice, chipotle or chili seasoning, garlic, salt, paprika. So you're just going to smear a nice bit over each one. Gives you that kind of street corn without being there. And then you take a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Now, if you had like cojita, which is the fresh Mexican cheese, that's even better, but I don't use enough of it.
You have a question? What temp and time for the air fryer?
So I had these at 425 and for about 15 minutes or so. You don't take long. I just wait until they have that nice bright yellow color. And then we're going to put a little bit of chipotle over it and a little bit of paprika, and then we'll cut up some fresh cilantro. Perfect. Beautiful. Let's flip our tortilla here. Good. We're getting close to the final run. I have some fresh cilantro over here, so we're going to take off a Nice little head, because we're going to use some on our corn and we're going to use some on our rice. And then we are almost getting to the final thing where we just have our bread that we're going to pop up and make. That will take us about 5 minutes. Luckily, making some homemade bread isn't really too much, especially while the rest of our rice cooks. Okay. So I'm just doing a quick mince over our cilantro. We're going to do a nice little sprinkle over the top. See, now this gives you that really pretty street corn look. Simple, easy enough to make, but has all the flavors there. Okay. Let's get this tortilla. Just 2 more tortillas. So we're about just a few minutes out.
Yeah, the ever popular question, what time is it where you are?
It is about 8:50 here. We are late eaters, and that is mainly because of youth sports. We didn't get home from soccer practice until about 7:45 today. So all of our kids have kind of a snack right before we go out for sports, and then when we come home, it's do homework, I cook dinner, and we settle down after that. Luckily, I will say it was how I was raised. We always had late dinners when I was a kid. But I know a lot of people eat a lot earlier, but that's just the way we like it here.
You have a question? Are those flour tortillas?
Yes, we made them with our sourdough discard this morning. So it's just flour, sourdough discard, oil, and water. But let's prep up. We're going to prep up our loaves real quick while our things are cooking. So we're going to prep because we're going to bake these up at lunch tomorrow before I go out of town. We're going to start out with 100 grams of active starter. So I'm going to show you this beautiful bubbly starter right here, nice and active. And we do 100 grams in each one, and then we're going to add a little bit of warm water, 375. We're going to whip these up real quick while our things are cooking. Almost there. So we've got 100. I always try to do make my breads while I'm cooking dinner in the process of the waiting, because you got dead time. And if you're already in the kitchen, it's a great way to kind of get some of that prep work out. So do 100 grams in each one. Easy peasy. 375 grams of warm water, which is about 1.5 cups. But use a scale. I always say use a scale or it might not turn out. We're going to do 100 or 375 in here. And almost there. Perfect. A little piece of cilantro. Let's flip our tortilla. Perfect. And now I'm going to take my dough whisk. We're going to put 2 teaspoons of salt in each one.
You got a comment that everybody's done a sourdough lately, but you really can't beat it.
You really can't. I love sourdough so much. It's like so good. We use it for sandwiches, everything. So I'm doing one traditional loaf, but I'm doing one specialty loaf, and we're going to do a basil pesto. So I'm going to put in a big heaping spoonful of pesto into my specialty loaf before we mix it up. And we're also going to add fresh basil as an inclusion in later, but we're going to whip that all together. Beautiful. And you can see it's going to have a lovely pesto smell to it. And then we simply are diluting the starter so that when we add it into our flour, that it's going to just mix in just nicely. Let's take a pause. Perfect. We're down to our last. We got one more tortilla after this. My goal is to get the bread made before we're ready for It's a lofty goal. And then we can assemble dinner tonight because our rice is just about done. Rice takes about 30 minutes and it's been on for about 25, almost 30. And then all you do is you add 500 grams of bread flour to each bowl. And just go grab my bread flour. Lost my mic. Happens. Safe. Okay. So we add 500 grams of bread flour to each one, which is about 3 cups. But I've just poured in. Use your scale again. There we go. And let's add our 500. So close. And then all we're going to do is we're going to use our dough whisk. We're going to whisk it up. Let's flip our tortilla. See? So we're going to just whisk it until it forms a nice dough, and then we'll start our stretch and folds in about 15 minutes. There we go. So you see how quickly, because you use the warm water, how quickly it moves into a nice dough. Perfect. And you're just going to let it sit and hydrate now. We're going to do this. This is with our pesto one. We're going to mix it together with our dough whisk. Beautiful. It's got a nice kind of palish green color to it. That's from the pesto. Smells wonderful too.
Do you have a question? Are any of the kids interested in cooking?
They have off and on. I will say my son, my 13-year-old son, and my 9-year-old daughter, and I guess my 3-year-old, he loves to cook with me. We're gonna let those sit and hydrate. But my 15-year-old daughter, she does not. I keep trying to get her to cook. She does not want to. And you know what? She rather me make it for her. I keep saying, I'm like, well, you could do it. But my son, loves to like help out and cook. Well, guys, while that one's cooking, we're gonna plate up our dinner. Let's get our rice. So we're add a last bit of cilantro into our rice. We're gonna add a squeeze of fresh lime juice in here. Just a bit. Perfect. And then we're gonna add a little sprinkle of garlic salt. And we're gonna give it a nice stir, and then we can assemble our plate. So stir it up. There we go. So this is just a way to make your package of cilantro rice a bit more bougie. Okay. Let's take our nice warm tortilla we have going right here, and we're gonna put in our chicken that we marinated in beer and chili pepper and lime juice. We're going to use some peppers and onions. Beautiful. And then I love to have a nice big dollop of guacamole. So we'll have this to our side, and you can put cheese on it if you want. We've got our street corn, and let's get our cilantro lime rice for it. And then, of course, there's refried beans, but I'm not a refried bean person. But this is what we're having for dinner today. We have our cilantro lime rice, our street corn that we made in the oven, and our delicious fajitas on our homemade tortillas using sourdough discard. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We made our delicious kind of Mexican dinner, plus prepped up 2 breads of sourdough for tomorrow. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, feel free to message or comment with any cooking questions you guys might have or any recipes you'd like to see us try. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.